we wanted to talk about foods that really help your body to stay strong. So let's go to the first slide. The immune system is made up of different organs, cells, and proteins. It's one of the most complex systems in the human body. This is from the National Institutes of Health. And we'll go to the RAIN one. The immune system protects the body like a guardian from harmful influences from the environment, and it's essential for our survival. Next slide. We know that everyday stress, poor nutrition, and lack of sleep can challenge your immune system. So let's take a look at a couple of things we can do under each of these categories to shore up our immune system. Next slide. So here's some of the categories that we should all be paying attention to: good sleep, stress reduction, exercise and rest, good nutrition, and of course, keeping our kids and our grandkids healthy. Next slide. So sleep really is so important in helping support your immune system. And here's some tips. Maybe you have some that work for you. I know that it's really important for me to get away from the electronics, my phone, my iPad, the TV for at least an hour or even more before going to sleep. And watching your caffeine too. I know for myself personally, I can't really have any caffeine after 12 noon, otherwise it affects me. Let's go to the next slide. Stress, and we certainly have all been under a lot of stress lately, and this also affects your immune system, of course. Ways to manage stress: exercise, staying positive, meditating, unplugging, praying, going for a walk in nature, digging in the dirt. If you're like Lynn and I, we love gardening. Finding ways that really help to diffuse stress right now is especially important, and so important for your immune system. Okay, next slide. Moderate exercise can boost your immune system, of course. I think the important thing to do with exercise is really to find something you love to do and be really consistent about it and have a certain amount of duration when you do it. And I think I read recently that duration and consistency is much better than intensity. So building that kind of concept into whatever it is that you love to do, making it a habit, that's what's really going to help boost your immune system, boosting your immune cells. Okay, next slide. And now we're getting to what we're really going to focus on for the rest of our talk here is optimum nutrition to maintain your healthy immune system. Protein, very important. Fruits and vegetables, those are the beautifully colored things that Genesis referred to, the nuts and the seeds and the berries. Getting whole grains and beans and legumes and eating lots of healthy fats. So we're going to target a couple of ideas in this food category to help support a healthy immune system. So let's go to the next slide, John. We're going to hover on this slide a little bit because we want to talk about each of these 10 things in some detail right now. This slide comes from Dr. William Li, and the reference that we've been using and reading and enjoying is a book called Eat to Beat Disease by Dr. William Li. He's a Harvard-based physician. He's got a great blog, great website. If you're interested, you can take a look there. But you're going to talk about each of these 10 foods and break it down for you a little bit. I'm going to focus on the B's. I have blackberries and I have broccoli sprouts. I'm going to share with you just a little bit about each of those. Blackberries, and you can get them in the produce section in a little plastic thing like this time of year, or you can buy them frozen in the frozen fruit section, organic blackberries. I love blackberries because they're a really high source of fiber. They have, in a cup, there's 7 grams of fiber, and that's a lot. If you're aiming for 30 grams of fiber a day, that's almost a third in just a cup of blackberries. And why do you want fiber? Fiber is important for digestion, elimination. It helps to balance your blood sugar, and it helps you to give that feeling of fullness. So if you're watching your waistline or you have some extra 19 pounds that have come along during the pandemic, adding extra fiber is really good. And blackberries are tasty. They're high in vitamin C, high in vitamin K, so they help blood clotting. And they're, because of their deeply colored, purpley color, they're high in antioxidants. So I like to eat them on my oatmeal or my cereal. Even just snacking them in hand is great. And I also put them in salads. I love them in salads. So you can look for them in the frozen food section or in the section of the produce section of the market where all the berries are. The next food that I want to talk about is broccoli sprouts. And broccoli sprouts come in a container like this, or you can grow your own. You know, if you have a sprouting thing that you can sprout your own right at home. They kind of look like alfalfa sprouts. But the thing that you want to remember, one thing about broccoli sprouts is they got a rock star of a bioactive called sulforaphane. And that is just one of these potent phytonutrients that protects against inflammation. It may fight and prevent certain cancers. It supports strong bones and heart and brain health. And you might say, well, why can't I just eat broccoli? Why do I have to bother with broccoli sprouts? Well, the thing is that these sprouts contain up to 100 times more of that bioactive called sulforaphane than full-grown broccoli. So how do I eat them? They have a nutty kind of radishy taste, and you have to really chew them so the enzymes break down in your mouth so you get the benefit of it. And Dr. Lee cites research, and he has cited research on a clinical trial that says eating broccoli sprouts can boost your immune defenses against the flu virus. I like to put them in a grilled cheese sandwich or in a wrap. Anytime you think of adding a lettuce to a sandwich or a wrap, substitute broccoli sprouts instead. They're really, really crunchy. Last night, I made some salmon, and I just put the salmon on a bed of broccoli sprouts. So where do you find them? You find them in the market where the lettuce is that are packaged in clamshells like this, not in the loose produce, but in all the in the section of the market where clamshell lettuce is packaged. All right, now Lee, take us to our next two foods.
Okay, am I here? Am I live?
You're live.
Okay, good. Thanks, guys. So I'm Lee on the Health Ministry. And the first item I'd like to talk to you guys about is green tea. A few years ago, in addition to my piano teaching, I got to work at Whole Foods for a few years. And I tell you, I learned so much information about healthy nutrition from working there. And they used to have these little pop-up demos. So I was able to try a lot of different teas. And my favorite green tea happens to be this one called Yogi. It comes in both a decaf.
Can you hold it up closer to the, got it. Thank you.
It comes up as a decaf tea, and it also in regular. And in the morning, I like to have the regular tea because it's got a little bit of the caffeine. However, it only has about 25 milligrams of caffeine. Coffee can have as much as 90 milligrams, which for me, with my personality, is way too much. The decaf that I have in the evening only has 10 milligrams. So that doesn't really affect me that much. I enjoy it hot, and I've heard that a lot of people, John on Health Ministry, even still drinks it over ice. So that's another great way to drink it. One of the best things about green tea is that it contains catechins, not catechism, but catechins. Catechins are an antioxidant, and what they do is they help to prevent cell damage. Another good thing to add to your tea is lemon. I have it here, and I add it to my tea most every morning. The reason is that vitamin C there's so much of it in lemons that it helps to give your body an extra boost against colds. What you want to try to refrain from adding, if you can, is milk and cream. I know it's hard, but milk and cream help to dilute the catechins, and so it's not as beneficial that way. Green tea has been found to help keep our blood sugar stable, as well as blood pressure and cholesterol. Another good benefit of green tea, and other teas as well, is that it helps to keep your inflammation at bay. When there's inflammation in the body, it gives it a great stomping ground for disease to manifest. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. The most wonderful thing about green tea for me is that it just has a soothing and relaxing aroma, and it's a great way to end your day with a cup of decaf green tea.
Lee, what did you say about cholesterol in green tea?
It can help reduce it.
Okay.
Not enormously, it's not going to be like a statin, but it does help to keep your cholesterol in check.
Okay, thanks.
So, sure. My next thing I want to talk about are blueberries. Blueberries are definitely a great fruit to enjoy in the winter. The most outstanding thing about blueberries is that they are just about the only truly blue fruit in our diet that's available to us. And that blue pigment is something that gives it its benefit, which is called anthocyanins. Anthocyanins are full of high levels of vitamin C and E, fiber, and antioxidants that help to keep colds and viruses at bay in the winter. Blueberries are also very low on the glycemic level. I think they come in at around 53. Anything below 55 is safe for people with diabetes or high blood sugar. And in terms of brand, in the winter months, the brand that I have found out about is called Winans. These are wild blueberries. You can buy them in the freezer section. I happen to get these at Whole Foods, of course. And this humongous bag is 3 pounds. It comes in at about $10, but it lasts for weeks and weeks. In the morning, I throw it on my oatmeal. Sometimes I just have it with yogurt. And then Pam has told me that her granddaughter likes to just reach in and eat them frozen like candy. So that's a great way to transition kids off of really sugary stuff to fruits.
May I also suggest, I hate to interrupt, but I usually in the morning have toast with either peanut butter or almond butter, and I'll put those blueberries or raspberries or blackberries on top of that instead of jam.
Well, that's a good thing to do, Paula. Nice. Oh, and before I forget, one of blueberries' best kept secrets is that they help to provide a reversal in age-related memory loss. And we can all have help with that, I'm sure. So if you can remember that, you'll be in great shape. And once you start eating them, you'll never forget to buy your blueberries again.
That's great. Thank you, Lee. Now I think Branda's up, and I'd just like to make a request. If we could save comments and questions till the end, if you could just jot down your thoughts, and then at the end we can go back and take comments and questions. Okay, Branda.
Great. Thanks, Pam. Good morning, everyone. I'm Branda Wilhoit, and a member of the Health Ministry team, and I'm going to be talking about pecans, the lowly pecan. I like to get my pecans in the bulk section, and I prefer to get the raw organic pecans, but it's really important to eat raw nuts and to make sure that they're fresh. How I like to eat my pecans, and pecans really are my very favorite nut, and that's why I'm almost empty on my container. Hopefully you can see this. I like to put a handful of pecans and berries on my oatmeal in the morning And also they're just a great snack because nuts are known to really curb your hunger, and just a couple nuts, if you're feeling hungry before a meal, can really stave off the tummy grumbles. The other way I like to enjoy pecans is with, I'll put it up here so you can see this. This is a raw organic nut butter. And just a little bit on an apple slice, or to replace peanut butter, is a healthy alternative. And nuts provide a healthy fat, which we all need for our brains and our immunity. So it's really a good idea to eat raw nuts. You do have to limit them. They are high in fat. They're good fats, but even just keeping a little container in your, I keep a little like zippy of nuts in my purse just to stave off hunger. If it's better than reaching for an unhealthy snack. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is pomegranate juice. And here's a brand I put up here. I got at Market Basket. It's organic and it's not from concentrate. And I know that the Stop and Shop in Winchester also has a nice brand. This one I got in the juice aisle, but they have one right in the produce section that's very nice, and it goes on sale quite frequently. But I love pomegranate juice. In the morning, I like to put a splash in my smoothies. But I tell you, my favorite way now has been to replace wine with dinner, or whenever I have a craving for a glass of wine. I found that if I just put a little bit of pomegranate juice and then I top it off with some bubbly water or seltzer, I feel like I'm drinking wine. I put it in a pretty glass and it's healthier and it's refreshing. Pomegranates are very high in antioxidants, which are really important to protect you from, to build up your immune system and protect you from illness. So try to get a little bit more juice. Juice is high in sugar, so you don't want to drink a lot. It just takes a little bit. And that's why I kind of dilute it with the seltzer, because you want to watch your sugars as well. But it's delicious and refreshing, and try it instead of a glass of wine some evening. See if you like it.
Thank you, Branda. Kathleen, what have you got in your kitchen right now? You're on mute.
Okay, I'm going to talk to you this morning about mushrooms, oysters, and oyster sauce. And let's start with mushrooms. Mushrooms are classified as a fungi, but they nutritionally are considered a vegetable. Mushrooms are low in calories, they have no fat, no cholesterol, and are low in sodium. Mushrooms have about 15 vitamins and minerals, and in particular, vitamin B6, magnesium, zinc, potassium, and selenium. These foods, it's also very high in vitamin D, which is helpful for our bones. All of these vitamins and minerals are helpful in building our strong immune system, and that's why mushrooms have made it to Dr. Lee's list. So a few comments about mushrooms. Mushrooms are healthy on the plate, and they're gentle on the planet. One of the most sustainably produced foods, and they are always in season. Mushrooms are found in the produce section of the market, and usually I find them near the greens, the fresh greens. I encourage you to be curious and to stretch your choices when it comes to selecting mushrooms. Mushrooms come in many different forms, and these are just some examples of what you might want to try. Right now, I am working on a Chinese freeze-dried dried mushroom, and it's very interesting in terms of how you prepare the mushroom for cooking in Chinese recipes. Let me see what else. So besides being curious about the different kinds of mushrooms and stretching your choices, I also want to remind you that you can just go, if you're trying something new, there's a learning curve, and you can easily reduce that by going online and looking at the various ways and demonstrations that are available on the web for cleaning and prepping, and recipes for cooking mushrooms. That they just abound. I was really amazed when this last week have been looking online at all the help that's there. One of the things that I personally learned was the importance of not putting it in a tight container. I wondered why my mushrooms didn't always make it too long. Well, the containers need to breathe, and they're best purchased when it's close to the time that you're going to use them. So let's move on to oysters and oyster sauce. And as I mentioned, I'd like to expand the conversation to the oyster. I think if you look at Dr. Lee's larger shopping list, he does include oysters because they are a highly nutritious shellfish. About 95% of them are grown in sustainable water farms. They're also a high quality protein, and it is also rich in zinc and selenium and iron, in vitamin B12 and D. And these, again, all play a very important part in regulating inflammation in the body and in keeping both our heart and our brain health. A few words of caution. In general, if you have a seafood allergy, you would want to avoid all of the oyster containing foods, regardless of what form they might be presented at a table. The raw oysters can contain potentially harmful bacteria, so please enjoy them cooked to avoid infection. The internet has many tasty recipes for broiling, grilling, and making oyster stew. In Chinese cooking, oyster sauce, which is what I wanted to particularly focus on now, can be found in the Chinese food section of the market. Often in Chinese restaurants, we have tasted oyster sauce when it's been paired with a green vegetable. I tend to find that it's sweet and salty and about the texture of a barbecue sauce. When shopping, you again want to check all of the labels. In particular, there is a variation I found in the salt content, and also whether or not they are advertising it as oyster flavored sauce or as oyster sauce. Check the contents, and you would be looking for oyster extract to be maybe the third or the fourth ingredient. This is not a recipe or a choice or a selection for someone that was vegan. And in some cases, again, you may want to check that there's no MSG in the particular brand that you're looking at. So how do we combine these two possibilities of having oysters and having mushrooms? Well, I put together a little sauce of rice wine and oyster sauce, And I'll show you what I'm going to do with those. I'm going to suggest combining them and putting them over some steamed broccoli. And then there are some very good recipes on the internet, and Dr. Lee has a good recipe for mushroom soup. And so I would encourage you to think about that with some bread, with the broccoli. You have a nutritious evening winter meal. And so I encourage you to think about that, and bon appetit.
Thank you, Kathleen. I'm getting hungry. Okay, John, let's wrap up with your the last two things on our 10 things.
Hello, I'm John, and I'm gonna start with the tomato. And a funny story about this particular tomato is I walked up to the organic section of the store for produce, and immediately this very perfectly right shaped heirloom tomato was right there for me. Some divine intervention right there. I'll probably be enjoying this particular tomato with some mozzarella, olive oil, and balsamic vinegar, and some basil. Probably a good way to use that prop later today. One of the things I did want to mention about selecting a tomato from the produce or from a farmer's market is that tomatoes tend to be one of the fruits or vegetables that are highly susceptible to pesticides and chemicals when growing. So it's best if you can find organic that has not been exposed to those, or make sure that you wash it thoroughly before enjoying the tomato. Including the tomatoes in our diet is very beneficial for helping with preventing cancer, helping to monitor our blood pressure, and it's also very helpful for someone with diabetes to control their blood glucose levels. The tomatoes are high in potassium, vitamin K1, which is good for blood clotting. It also has plenty of folate or vitamin B9, which is great for cell function and is especially helpful for women during pregnancy. The benefits of the tomato are not only readily available while they're fresh, and as we all love them in the summer from backyards or local farms when they're at their best taste. The benefits are also there when cooked, when they're in a can or in a jar as well. So you're not losing the effects that sometimes you can lose from fresh fruits or produce when they're cooked or canned. In the case of the tomato, they're readily available in whatever source you are using them. Like I said, a great way to use it is in a number of different salads, including a simple salad with just the tomatoes and some mozzarella, basil, and olive oil and balsamic vinegar. But adding them to sandwiches and soups. Almost every soup or stew that I make, I end up putting, if it's not, usually I'm making them in fall and winter, so I'll put a can of diced tomatoes in with it, which will give you some of the benefits of having all of that in there. I like to make my own pasta sauce and make sure that I'm using nice. Usually I'm watching for my canned goods also to be organic, just so that I'm a little bit more careful about how that's done. But there's so many great ways to use it in soups, stews, just on top of bread like bruschetta and salsa for snacking. We've got millions of ways to use the tomato. Humble little power-packed tomato from our gardens. So the other item that I did want to discuss, which actually goes very well with tomatoes. In fact, usually when I'm cooking, it's with olive oil. And one of the things that we do want to, again, make sure that we watch for is we want to watch that there's something showing that it is organic. We also want it to be the cold press, first press of the olive oil. These are all items that help make this a lot more beneficial to us. And also when shopping for it, we want to make sure that it's not clear, that it has an opaque glass or plastic on it. I prefer the glass myself, but the opaque will help keep the olive oil fresher longer and keep the sun from affecting the benefits of the olive oil. And the olive oil is it's packed with the good fats and lower in the less healthy fats. So it's a great oil to cook with and replace butter with. You know, one of the things that I do is most of my cooking, I do start with olive oil whenever I'm sauteing anything. Olive oil with some seasoning or some grated cheese or other flavorings and dip bread in it. A lot of restaurants do that. I think that's where a lot of us first started doing that, is in the restaurants. But you can do that right at home. Pour a little in a bowl, sprinkle some of your favorite seasonings, some of your favorite grated cheeses in there to flavor it up, maybe some hot peppers to give it a little boost as well. And it is, of course, a great choice, first choice for a salad dressing. The flavor is of the extra virgin olive oil is very good for the salad dressing. It helps helps with that and a number of other things there. And it does also have a number of antioxidant benefits that help the heart and the arteries and the digestive system. So it's a nice, healthy oil to use. And, you know, and like I said, best if it's first press, cold press, best if it's organic, and definitely in an opaque bottle so that the sun does not dilute any of the effects of the olive oil, and also help to keep it lasting a little longer. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And let's go to the next slide. Thank you, everyone who presented their two foods. It's really great information. I always learn so much from listening to others. Now, we're just going to finish up right now and go through the next few slides. And what I'd like you to know is that what you're seeing right here is an offering from Dr. Lee on his website. And what it is, it's a downloadable shopping guide that you can download and put on your phone. And it gives you some guidelines. And we can just go to the next slide, John, about remembering some of the wonderful foods that you may not think about that are so important for supporting your immune system right now, like purple potatoes, like shiitake mushrooms. If you're used to buying the white button ones, try the shiitakes. Try Swiss chard if you've never tried. It's just a great reminder to try new things. Next slide. So we have vegetables, and here's a reminder of the best seafoods for immunity. You'll see oysters are down there on that list as well. And your meat and dairy, that chicken, the dark meat, it's the thighs and the drumsticks and the wings. that are really important. And your cheeses, I've started buying Munster cheese lately. When I make my grilled cheese on sourdough bread with broccoli sprouts, I've been using Munster, and I haven't used Munster cheese in years. So I'm learning and refreshing my shopping and trying some new things. Let's go to the next slide. And then you have your pomegranate juice there, if you haven't tried the juice that Branda mentioned, and your teas, your jasmine green tea that Lee mentioned. And always look for now your sourdough and pumpernickel bread and that dark chocolate, that's the 70% cocoa level, is the really good healthy dark chocolate. Isn't it nice to say chocolate is on our list? And check your aisles for your nuts and your seeds. Remember that Genesis scripture that I read. Your dried herbs, spices, turmeric is a great inflammation fighter, and anchovies, sardines, all those good things that provide you with the omega-3 fatty acids. All right, next one. So we have a gift for everyone. You can get the shopping guide by going to Dr. Lee's website. There it is up there. If you can take a screenshot of it, or you can take a photograph if you have your phone handy, or just jot it down, or if you just go to Google University, I like to say Google University, and put in Dr. William Lee shopping guide, it'll come right up, and you can download it right to your phone. So now we're going to have a drum roll, because now comes our drawing, and we've asked Regina. She's been quietly taking down the names of everyone who's been here with us for the last 30, 40 minutes or so, and we're going to have a drawing. So Regina, let's unmute you. And where are you? I'm looking for you on my...
Right here.
Okay, so what we're drawing for first is a copy of Dr. Lee's book, Eat to Beat Disease, that you see right there on the screen. So Regina,
Okay.
somebody should drum roll. I should have got my drum out. Okay.
And the winner is Leslie French.
Ah, Leslie, congratulations. All right. And Kathleen, tell us how Leslie will get her book.
I'll drop it off.
Oh, you're going to drop it off, Regina? Yeah. Okay.
Leslie, could you stay after just to give me your address? I know I've been there before, but just to refresh my memory.
Thank you very much.
All right. Second drawing is for a bottle of lovely olive oil. John talks so wonderfully about all the benefits of olive oil. And that looks like a very generous. How much is that? Is that a quart bottle?
26 fluid ounces.
Okay, so now we have a drawing of looks like a gourmet olive oil. Go ahead, Regina.
And this winner is Carol Cook.
Ah, congratulations, Carol.
Thank you. Thank you.
What's unique about that particular bottle is that it's also fair trade.
Ah,
So
Wonderful.
that adds to, that's another characteristic that we can add to our shopping eye as we're weighing which product to get.
okay. So that concludes our formal presentation. If anyone would like to stay on and have questions or comments, I think our health ministry can stay on for a couple of minutes if John Crabtree, you're willing to stay on. Does anyone have a question or comment or thoughts that they'd like to share on this topic?
One quick question. What is the name of that bottle of olive oil? I saw EVOO on your slide of 10 things, but I assume it's I don't know why that said EVOO. Is that the name of the brand, the company?
That's the type of olive oil, Fred. It stands for extra virgin olive oil. Extra.
And so on that particular bottle, what is the name that I look for there?
You want to look for EVO, extra virgin olive oil, on any brand.
Thank
You
you.
want to hold that up, Regina, so Fred can see that?
Yeah, it's really hard to see it, but yeah, it's just any brand of extra virgin should be fine.
What's that brand?
Many thanks.
Maybe John, if you're there, you could hold up your brand again. Can we spotlight John's?
This one just says extra. It
See
says
if,
fair
there
trade.
you go. On that one, you can see extra virgin. It's right up there. It's not even the EBO. Okay. But that's the type of olive oil that has the highest bioactives that you want to look for. That particular one that John held up to is from the Greek olive, the Koroneiki olive from Greece. It's a very flavorful, delicious, every oil is a little bit different. This one I found is very good for just dipping bread. Not just plain, it has a great taste. It's not too acidy, too sharp. Thanks, John. Okay, any other questions, thoughts? Maybe we could unmute everyone.
Hello.
John Crabtree. Hi, Asako.
Yes.
Hi.
Can I ask my question?
Yeah.
Apparently with the olive oil, there are certain ones that's good for salad dressings and some that's good for cooking with.
I think it's a matter of your taste. You know, some of them have a sharper taste.
Yeah.
Others are smoother. I think you kind of have to experiment and find out, you know, what the flavor is that you're after. And I know Marianne McCall Taylor is here, and she's a wonderful cook.
Yeah.
Do you have a preference, Marianne, about your olive oil?
I usually use California Ranch olive oil.
Okay.
Okay. For either.
But I don't know that it's organic or anything else.
Yeah,
so.
but you like
I have used that one myself, and it's not organic, but they do have both extra virgin olive oil, which usually I think tastes a little fresher
Yeah,
than
greener.
the others, because it is usually a first press, a cold press, so it's usually, I find it tastes a little fresher and smoother. But again, like Pam said, it is individual taste.
Okay. So one kind I can use both for cooking or in a salad dressing.
Right.
Yeah, the extra virgin olive oil I find is a little bit better for the salad dressing. I think it has a little bit better taste. Again, personal preference, but for uncooked, I find that it has a nicer flavor.
Which is that, EVOO?
Right.
Extra?
Extra
Okay.
virgin. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else? Anybody?
I have one question, but my main question is there going to be, are you going to continue?
Look, we lost you. Fred, you're muted.
Get closer to your mic, Fred. I can't, you dropped.
Fred's muted.
My question is, are we going to have a little time for further questions if where many people may want to depart from this now? But if I stay on, will I have a chance to ask some more questions?
I will stay on with you, Fred. I can stay on. If people have to go, please do feel free to go. We've loved having everyone in our room today. And thank you. We've gone a little longer than we had anticipated, but thank you so much for coming. Fred, I'll stay here. I think Kathleen maybe can hang here for a little bit, but anyone else that has to leave, please do feel free to leave. So Fred, ask away.
Thank you, and stay well, everybody.
Thank you, Doug. Bye-bye. Thanks for coming.
Good to see everyone.
I actually have to leave, but I'll get the addresses later, I guess.
Okay. Maybe we
I can send them to you.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks, Kathleen.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, here are a few more questions. One with regard to mushrooms. Are canned mushrooms comparable to raw or fresh mushrooms?
Kathleen, did
Oh,
you?
that's a good question. I think you're thinking about the canned mushrooms, that they are an option. But what was your thinking that they would store better? Is that?
No, I just have been in the pattern. Theo used to get canned mushrooms and use them quite a bit.
Yeah.
He would get the fresh ones, but Janice liked the fresh ones, and I just have never really found out, never looked to see whether, I was hoping that somebody who's talking about mushrooms would know whether there's a big difference between the little canned ones or just the fresh ones. The fresh ones don't last very long.
Right. Fred, I'll have to look and see if there's something about what might be lost in the cooking and then the story, if there's the storing of them, and I'll be glad to get back to you about that. I had actually thought about that as a question about what about the canned ones. So, but I didn't look into that piece. So I will and get back to you.
That's great. Thanks, Kathleen. And I think, Fred, you have to be careful with canned things for sodium content, because salt is used a lot in the preserving and canning of vegetables. So one thing that you can, when you have fresh mushrooms, you can control the amount of salt that goes into the cooking of them. Whereas they're out of the can, you don't have control of that.
Let me ask a few more questions, since I see that I'm the only one apart from the panelists here. One with regard to pomegranates. I like to eat the fresh pomegranates, and I didn't hear any comments about the pomegranate juice as opposed to the real the fresh pomegranates.
Oh, I think anytime you can have the real fruit, that's always better. So if you're willing to put all the work into getting eating the pomegranates, go for it.
That's an investment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Time and labor.
Yeah.
You also need to wear a bib when you're doing it.
But they're sort of fun,
Cover
though.
your
I
couch.
like eating the fresh ones. I don't always have them in the house, but
Yeah.
But I will look for that pomegranate juice. That's certainly a more.
As a rule of thumb, always the having the whole fruit is usually always better, because you have the fiber in addition to all of the vitamins and minerals and benefits. The juicing process tends to take out the fiber. So yes, I encourage you to always eat the whole fruit. If
Another question with regard to the values of oysters. What about scallops? Are scallops comparable to oysters, or is there a big difference in composition?
I don't know the answer to that. That's a good question. Google University.
Yeah.
Here I come.
The one thing about scallops is that they are a little high on the cholesterol level. So from a nutritional standpoint, I know they're not quite as good as some of the other fish, but they're outstanding in flavor.
If I could interject something, I just looked up canned mushrooms versus fresh, and it said fresh mushrooms come out as the obvious winner, less calories, sodium, carbohydrates, and sugar, and higher in protein.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paula.
That's going to be
Paula, thank you.
a lot with any of the prepared foods, especially like mushrooms, which are mostly water. And when you cook them, they shrink down to nothing. When a producer is canning things, they very often try to do it as quickly as possible. And that's done by adding salt and adding sugar to bring out all the water.
And one last question. With regard to the nuts, as a chemist, I of course know that heat will start to destroy certain classes of compounds.
Yes.
So I'm very familiar with that. But with regard to raw nuts versus roasted nuts, is there much of a difference? Certainly it's not going to really affect much in the way of the unsaturated fats in it, but there are other good things in nuts, and I would know what ones are pretty heat stable, but I don't really know whether there's a big difference in some important components in that really are altered irreversibly by the heating process.
Yeah, I think it's the raw nuts are generally more nutritious. And I should have mentioned, I do keep them in my refrigerator because, you know, because nuts do go rancid pretty easily. The oils can go rancid, and that's probably, you probably know the chemistry behind that, and the heat and exposure to heat can cause them to, you know, to.
Well, that's primarily a matter of light and oxygen.
Yeah.
It's exposed to oxygen and light in any way on a shelf. That leads to the decomposition of them.
Yeah. So
in the dark.
I don't know if anyone else has it. I just know as a rule of thumb, I tend to always try to go for the raw nuts and not the. They're lower. They are lower in calories as well. And typically, when they have the roasted nuts get. I don't know, Pam, you might know better than I do. I just have always avoided or tried to avoid the roasted salted nuts and just have gone more for the raw, you know, there's no salt, that's right. Thing. And then
certainly you can't get unsalted nuts, which is what I would usually do, but I'll switch over. I'll try the raw ones. I'm just in a pattern of reading that.
Paula's been Googling.
If I could interject, I looked up roasted versus raw. However, roasting nuts may damage their healthy fat, reduce their nutrient content, and lead to the formation of a harmful substance called acrylamide.
Thank you, Paula. You know, anytime you apply heat to something, it changes things. And, you know, I always think the less heat and the less stress we put on our raw foods, the better it is for us for our.
One thing with regard to the class of things that are most sensitive that I know of pro heat would be the antioxidants. Almost those things are really altered by prolonged heating, and that's probably the true, at least for the roasted nut category.
Right.
But I found this an extremely interesting hour, and I want to thank all the people in the Health and Wellness Committee for putting this on. Many thanks to all of you.
Thank you for coming, Fred.
Thank you, and great seeing you, Fred.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're wrapped up now. Everyone go out and enjoy the sunshine, right?
Yeah. Thank you all for this. It was wonderful.
Shop well, be well, stay healthy, have fun cooking. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, John Crabtree.
You're very welcome. I'll post the recording of this, at least the main presentation section. Okay. I lost a little bit at the beginning before I remembered to turn it on, but 99% of it's there.
Great, thank you.
John.